Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to continue to be your daily advocate. If you're new here or you're not subscribed for any reason, please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. Thank you to all of you who have been watching and following me for so long. It truly means a lot, and I'm glad that I can be this person.
Potential Federal Reserve actions to support interbank settlement of faster payments, Federal Reserve notice. This is a lot this is really to remind the veterans in the space how far we've come. This is also to let anybody new in the space to know just how long this has been going on with Ripple and the Federal Reserve. This is from December 2018 when they submitted their Federal Reserve notice to participate in the Faster Payments Council and to be a candidate to help solve that problem using Ripple's suite of software products, RippleNet, and obviously ultimately have access to XRP for settlement. They go on to talk about these things. I don't need to read them here. You know what Ripple's for. You know what XRP is used for, and RippleNet also. But this was when it really started back in 2017 when Ripple joined the Faster Payments Council. But I'm showing you this to just go through some things, and then we have a report from the IMF from 2020 February, or 2022 February, this month just came out, and look at some information in that as well. But this is the growth that we've seen. So Ripple back in the day was on the Faster Payments Council with the Federal Reserve. Then they had Ryan Zagone go to the implementation committee for putting it and implementing it around the world. Although that they don't make any claim that they're working with them, I think it's poppycock, and I think the answer is yes, we are, but that is speculative on my part, and I've been speculating since 2017, since I got in this space before I was even a YouTuber. But we've grown to the point to understand that Palau is obviously doing a pilot and looking to launch a digital currency using Ripple and the XRP ledger. We know also the Central Bank of Bhutan is doing the same on Ripple's private ledger. And then we see right here, I covered this really heavily in this morning's video, and you should check out this morning's video if you have not seen it. Ripple has now joined, and we know that they're on the Digital Pound Foundation to help work with them in the UK for the release of their CBDC of a digital pound. And now they're announcing that Ripple has now joined the Digital Euro Association. It just keeps getting bigger, folks. It just keeps getting bigger. Everybody keeps telling us it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You XRP people, I don't know what you believe in. The FUD we keep hearing. All the people keep trolling us and telling us these things. But yet, we see the Federal Reserve is where it started. Republic of Palau, Central Bank of Bhutan. Then we've been wondering who else it could be. We know that Ripple's on the Digital Pound Foundation. Now we find out they've just joined as a gold member to the Digital Euro Association to help implement central bank digital currencies for solutions for cross-border payments. Now we're talking about having access to 27 countries in the European Union. Okay? So now we're really on the edge of 30 countries is what we're talking about. If you figure in the United States, if you speculate that like I do, and then you understand Republic of Palau and Bhutan, we're talking about 30 different countries or regions and nations around the world already. If this is going to be something when this thing takes off. Then I wanted to show you this report from the BIS from back in September of 21, not too long ago here, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason I wanted to show this to you is to remind you of the test pilot programs and the innovation hub that has been happening with the BIS with many different central banks and regions around the world. That Project Intanon Lion Rock Phase 1 achieved a proof of concept single platform built by R3 on Corda. Now stay with me because I'm laying all this out now. Now this is just from September of last year, so what's changed? Nothing. Everything's getting bigger. We're getting closer to these pilot programs being the real system that we all are going to. That's why it's a pilot program now. They're figuring it out, and this is where we're going. My speculation, and then to remind you, R3 and Corda uses XRP token, the Corda Settler, which is an option to settle on the Corda platform where clients on R3 load up to and onload their business model and what they're doing. And they have access to the court of settler, which depends at 2019 on the time for XRP was chosen to be used for settlement. And then we also know that they do plan on expanding that option open to other tokens as well, but XRP is one of them. Court of settler uses XRP. Now, let's move to this, because this actually came out in February. International cooperation and information sharing crucial to solving complex issues when central bank digital currencies and avoiding costly errors, our new paper explains. It goes right here. This is the write-up for it here on the IMF page, but let's get the document and the report open itself. So we have this, and there's just a couple places I want to show you. One is this. Shout out to Riz, who sent this to me, and a couple others. I appreciate you all sending this over. And when I go into this and I take a look at this, it says right here on table 2, page 16, right? What does it say? The distribution of central bank digital currency functions between the central bank and the private sector. Private sector, being the light blue, is all over this graph when we're talking about different areas like ledger update, validation. Uruguay using private sector for that, are they? KYC AML, a lot of these countries listed here using private sector for that. User interface, a lot of these countries out of the 6 here. User data, customer service, private sector. So we are seeing the relationship of the public-private sector, as I believe we should see, where you get the best out of both sides of the equation. We know that banks are heavily regulated. We know that, I believe, ultimately, some of these private non-bank companies in the private sector will be wrapped up into a, let's say, heightened prudential of supervision, like FSOC, or tied to the Treasury itself, like the regulatory agency FSOC. And then let's take a look at this, because this is a whole new battle. So I wanted to show you that and keep that in mind as we move forward. But right now, I want to deviate to a piece of news that's come out here. And look, we've been following Empower Oversight. We've been following in full support of John Deaton and what he's doing with the XRP class action lawsuit. Well, listen, I've never seen in history that I'm aware of, and I mean, I like history. I can't really call myself a buff, but I enjoy history. And I don't remember ever a scenario in history where a country has won a 3-front war. Ever. Well, if you bring that analogy back to the SEC is now engaged in a 3-front war. It's the SEC versus Ripple is the first front. The second one is John Deaton and 65,000 XRP holders in the class action lawsuit. The third front is Empower Oversight and the conflict of interest for FOIA requests. Now we know, just to bring you up to speed, that Empower Oversight was told to pound sand when they first sent the request for FOIA requests to the SEC for documents. They said, we don't have any. And then, of course, Empower Oversight said, well, we don't settle for all of that. They went even harder on them to get the information. Then next thing you know, the SEC's like, you know what? We didn't search it right. We had some kind of error or something. I don't even think the computer was on. And we found 1,000 documents related to everything you were asking about. Then all of a sudden, 1,000 documents, right? And these are really, really powerful documents, I am sure, because that's why the SEC, I speculate, didn't want to reveal them to begin with. But there's a great article here put out by Empower Oversight, and you're going to need to know about it. And I'm going to give you some of this right now, because financial regulators are supposed to write clear rules so the markets can operate on a level playing field. Instead, they sometimes make arbitrary enforcement decisions that look unfair and undermine public confidence in their integrity. You can't say it any better. That's exactly what's going on here with Ripple and XRP holders. Empower Oversight's FOIA requests, which stands for Freedom of Information Act requests, are aimed at learning whether any SEC documents might support widespread claims of apparent conflicts that are undermining public confidence in the SEC's neutrality and objectivity. And that's exactly the problem here. Three former SEC officials had direct hand in crypto enforcement actions that moved the markets. Former Chairman Jay Clayton, former Director of Corporate Finance William Hemon, and former Director of Enforcement Mark Berger. And listen, it goes on to say, Empower Oversight expect full measure of legally required transparency from the SEC, and we will continue to press the SEC and find and produce the documents it is required by law to disclose to the public. Well, I want to give you a bit of this article here because the whole thing, you should read it. And if you do, believe me, it won't just make you mad. It won't just make you angry. If you're really following what's been going on, you should be incensed. And I know I was, and I still am. Today, February 11, 2022, was the deadline for the SEC to answer our lawsuit in court. On Thursday, yesterday, February 10th, we agreed to a one-week extension on condition that the SEC provide the documents it has already located. We are also sending the SEC some additional search terms to inform the additional searches it agreed to conduct. Empower Oversights expect the full measure of legally required transparency from the SEC, and we will continue to press the SEC to find and produce documents it is required by law to disclose to the public. Cases like this are why FOIA is so crucial to our democracy and why transparency throughout government is critical to keeping the powerful in check. Well said, but it sure ain't easy. It really ain't easy. And I tell you what, I am grateful at this point for John Deaton. I've said it many times, and everything that he's doing. I'm grateful for Jason Foster and everything that they're doing at Empower Oversight. Obviously, open invitation to both of those gentlemen for anything that we can do here on the channel to help them get attention to the cause. There's no question about it here. Now, look, let's take a look and shift gears here because we've got the path that we've been on with Ripple and XRP. We understand that the SEC has a lot in front of it, and it's not just the SEC versus Ripple, because we know that there's a lot of information coming out there and being revealed and made public as well. So now let's take a look and change gears here and talk about this. We've talked about systemic risk seen as a potential route to stablecoin regulation. Now, I have made this argument for around 2 years now on this channel when it comes to systemically important designations. And Tom Emmer, featured here in this picture, is one smart cookie. This guy understands politics, he understands crypto, he understands stablecoins, and he understands regulation as well. This guy knows what's going on. But what I want to do is show you this part right here, talking about the President's Working Group on Financial Markets. A panel of regulators led by the Secretary of Treasury recommended in November that Congress enact legislation to restrict the issuers of stablecoins to deposit-taking banks. They added that if Congress doesn't act, then regulators should consider designating stablecoins or related activity as systemically important, a move that would put them under the authority of the Federal Reserve. Regulators reiterated this position on December 17th in the annual report of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, led by the Treasury. Anand Sithian, a counsel with the law firm Crow and Mooring, said he expects regulators to consider classifying some aspects of stablecoin business as systemically important to the financial system. Are you hearing this? If we understand XRP to be so important, how is it that we find it so hard to believe that that bridge currency couldn't find a designation as such? I ask you. If there's no congressional action, they're probably going to take a view that certain activities warrant regulation as systemically important under the authority they have. So, if FSOC acts, it would not necessarily be regulating a stablecoin issuing company per se, but regulating certain activities by that company. And this is what we heard from crypto dad Chris Giancarlo and Brian Brooks about moving the regulatory mindset from regulating entities and more into the understanding of regulating activities. And I think that's a direction we need to go. Regulators are considering regulation to address the potential systemic risk that could arise if there's a run and inability to redeem. They will evaluate the risk from the redemption of the stablecoins from the process of backing them with currency, he said. He said he expects regulatory agencies to continue with enforcement actions. Stablecoins are here to stay, said Scythian, and even if the attempt by Congress to prohibit stablecoins in the United States, stablecoin issuers might just move offshore. And there you have it. And that's why you better get this figured out, Congress, U.S. Treasury, because that's exactly what they'll do. Oddly enough, it was Jay Clayton who said in a congressional hearing, if we don't embrace the technology, it will innovate around us. And that couldn't be more true from the mouth of babes. Then we have to look at, even more evidence here of the Treasury will soon debate FSOC investigation into stablecoins. If you ever wanted to know what's about to come down the pipe here, FSOC's about to get in this game, at least when it comes to stablecoins. Now, why do I show all of this about FSOC? Because I understand that if this is money, then the Treasury is going to have something to say about it now, aren't they? Not the SEC, but the Treasury. At least in the activities that come to backing that stablecoin. So when looking at this, we see even more evidence as FSOC has the authority to declare activities or companies including the pegging of digital assets to tangible assets. Listen to this. Including the pegging of digital assets to tangible assets. A danger to the financial system, stablecoins may face stiff rules and monitoring by regulations. Now, the reason I'm showing you this, and shout out to Big Skinny for sending these articles to me that kept me up last night. But if you look at this, including the pegging of digital assets to tangible assets. It doesn't always have to be dollar to dollar. Now we get into the discussion of what we talk about all the time on this channel, many, many times. Backing the asset XRP, by some say by gold, I say by all things. You could put up a percentage of all the futures traded on soybeans and corn. You could put up a percentage of the metals market that are traded. You could put up a percentage of the stocks and bonds that are traded around the world. You could put up a percentage of the money that's locked up in Nostro accounts around the world. What would the value of XRP be then? And I ask you, would it be a stable coin if we're talking about FSOC has the authority to declare activities or company, including the pegging of digital assets to tangible assets? A danger to the financial system, stablecoins may face stiff rules and monitoring by regulators, which should happen, by the way. This gets more interesting by the day, and then there's obviously talk from, Charles Gasparino's reporting from Fox, shout out to him, and everything him and Eleanor have been doing there, that broadly the market could become securities. But could it be a designation like this by the Treasury, a prudential regulator, that allows XRP to escape what would become a broad definition and classification for the majority of assets? And what could possibly be the motivation for Gary Gensler wanting to have jurisdiction over crypto? Maybe it's the fees. I've always wondered, is it just a jurisdictional power that he wanted so he could ask Congress for more money? Certainly that has to be part of it. But in this article here by Mary McCone, I guess it is, or Mahone, it says here, what is a SEC fee? The Securities Exchange Commission fee is a small fee attached to the sales of certain types of securities to help cover the cost of administering the SEC. Although known as the SEC fee, the fee is actually not levied or administered by the SEC on consumers. Instead, it is a charge on markets and the regulatory organizations that pass it on to individual traders through their brokers and dealers. So, looking at this and trying to understand the motivation here, could we be looking at real motivation for Gary Gensler to bring in the cryptocurrency market under the SEC's jurisdiction? So what? So they could get more fees? If you call the crypto market broadly digital asset securities the way the SEC wants to do, couldn't you see a situation arise at some point where if Gary Gensler gets his way, we could be forced to go through broker dealers to deal with these crypto asset securities. Crypto exchanges may be forced to buddy up with a bank that have the broker dealer license even, so they can have that luxury to do that. I think that whole approach from the SEC pushes it back into the bank's hands. And if we see that happen, one has to wonder, is the real motivation not just jurisdictional control, but all the fees that may come from driving it back into the broker-dealer hands? Oh, you really can't make it up. You just can't.
So enjoy your day, everybody. I'm always here for you. Leave any comments or questions below, and be sure to subscribe. But thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you. Enjoy your day, and I always have your back. So thanks so much, everybody.